stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So, to start off the meeting, we have a public comment, portion here. If anybody wants to make a public comment, now is the time to do it. You're gonna get 3 minutes. And we don't allow any handouts or anything, and you'll be speaking directly to the board, and no decisions will be made, based on that, but it's a listening deal, so. Is there anybody in the public here that wants to make a public comment right now? Okay. Hearing none. We'll move on. Okay, approval of the agenda, looking for a motion. Now we're gonna take, under the Grand County Coordinator, we're gonna take the 2027 MEI contract out of there for today. Is there any other, changes to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll call for a motion.
So, I'll second.
Okay, so, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Disapprove, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, approval of the meeting minutes. That would be from the special meeting on August 7th.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Do we have a
Meeting
motion?
minutes of August 7th.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Doyle. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Approval of the warrant.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrants.
Okay, Troy made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bill. Any further discussions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay. Angie, Horizon Public Health, you guys want to come up there and sit?
Morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Angie Castro, and I recently stepped into the administrator role at Horizon Public Health. And it's been one of my goals as I've started this role to really connect with our county boards, to hear the priorities that you have and the needs that you see in the community so we can collaborate and work together as we move forward. Before we get started, I want to introduce Tom. Tom is our new Director of Finance and Administrative Services, so we're thrilled to have Tom on board.
Yep, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
And so today we're just going to go over a quick overview of Horizon Public Health, some of the services we offer, and then see if there's ways that we can best partner and collaborate as we move forward into the future. So Tina has put up our presentation, so I'm gonna let her. Okay, how do I make it? So if you see that little toggle on the right bottom, right there. Okay, awesome. So our mission is to promote, protect, and improve the health and well-being of all people in our communities. And Tina, you can go to the next slide. Horizon formed in 2015. We're a 5-county agency. We serve Douglas, Grant, Hope, Stevens, and Traverse counties. We have offices in all 5, of course, and we have roughly 90 team members. We are accredited by the Public Health Accreditation Board, which is a national accreditation agency, which really helps us share to the public that we are really driven towards excellence. We have quality programs and services, and helps us build trust with the different things that we offer. As we move forward here, I'm going to touch a little bit about each of our program areas. So Tina, if you want to go to the next slide. We work really closely with the community. Public health isn't just the work that we do, it's the partnerships that we form. And so within our community leadership team, we have representatives from school, healthcare, law enforcement, and every 5 years we do a community health needs assessment. So we identify what are the needs of the specific communities that we serve, and then what are those priorities that we want to work toward during that 5 years. So this community leadership team picked these top 3 priorities that we are currently working on. The first one's around access to care, specifically around dental and oral health, mental health, and childcare. The second priority is around resiliency, so really mental well-being, and then substance use prevention. And then chronic disease, so it would be heart disease and obesity. Heart disease, the number one leading cause of death in our region. So these are the 3 priorities that we are working in collaboration with our partners. One of the program areas that I'm going to highlight first is our healthy lifestyles. We have a team of health educators that really work on different programs, policies, environmental things to make the healthy choice easier in daily routine lives. And so a couple of the fun facts that we've done recently, we've done community bike shares across all 5 counties. There's one right here in Elbow Lake, which is pretty neat. We've done partnership with our healthcare system, so our largest healthcare system in each of our 5 counties, so that'd be Lake Region here. And so over 40,000 individuals were screened for food insecurity, which is a project that we initiated with them. So we identified over 1,500 people who were insecure and affected over 180 patients with FoodRx, which is fresh, healthy produce and lean frozen meats monthly. Currently, we work with 92% of public school districts, so they're actively engaged with us on different initiatives to improve health and wellness. And then we've done 267 activities and events in 2025 to help prevent substance misuse and abuse. We also work a lot, of course, around education, awareness. We have a variety of different campaigns. I know I've worked with this board on some of the cannabis ordinance work and registration and things like that. But one of the things that we're really working on doing is driving people to our website for more information. So whether it's through radio or social media, we drive people to our website. We had a 23% increase in website views from 2024 to 2025. We also implemented the use of a platform called Credible Mind, which is a free mental health resource. It offers videos, articles, podcasts, thousands of resources, but it also provides assessments. So it looks at your unique needs and helps give recommendations for the things that would support you and your mental well-being. So we've had over 3,200 users there. And then we also created, if you want to go back, Tina, we also created a 5-county GIS map of community resources. And so we have resources on this page that have dental, mental health, primary care, we have food resources, and then we have park and recreation on that. And we've been working with each county to get that shared, so we can get and know what's around them and what's accessible. For our children and families, we assist families in learning about pregnancies. It's about health and nutrition, infant and child growth, looking at some of the 2025 numbers, just to show the impact and reach that we have. We served over 660 children, in our follow along program, which is tracking infant and child growth development. And if people aren't hitting those milestones, they're referred for additional support. Over 1,400 family home visits by nurses, where nurses go into the home and visit after there's been a birth of a child. We've served on average over 1,300 participants each month by our Women, Infants and Children team, so WIC team, that provides nutrition services for families. And then over $1.1 million of WIC benefits were redeemed in our HPH service area. So that's really stimulating economic growth at groceries and whatnot. So that's a great benefit to our community. For emergency preparedness, we work very closely with county emergency managers on protecting people's health, planning for emergencies, natural disasters, things like that. We participated in over 39 preparedness exercises or addressing real events, doing education and outreach last year. And then for our disease prevention work, we work closely with the Minnesota Department of Health and our healthcare partners to reduce the spread of infectious disease. And so we worked with 18 children were referred for lead case management who had high lead levels. And then we had provided over 680 vaccines in 2025.
I got a question. So is there any measles outbreaks in this area?
We have 0 measles cases in our region.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yep. The next area that we do is in Hope and Hope and Douglas counties, excuse me, we do food pools, lodging, licensing and inspection. MDH does licensing and inspection for grants, but it's something that we're gonna be exploring for potential future. For environmental health, there's a lot of things that we can't control, like the quality of air that we breathe or the water in the ground that we drink. And so we're really focused on how can we make these conditions safer. So we work on addressing public health nuisance complaints. 33% of those complaints last year involved mold. And then we're working a lot with our safe drinking water, looking at wells. The geological factors in our area make the water in our wells one of the highest in the state in terms of arsenic levels. And so we've done a lot through this particular safe drinking water project, we did 203 lab analysis and identified elevated arsenic in 67% of those wells. And so we're going to continue to work really hard with our homeowners to get those tested and then support through treatment.
Angie, the licensing and consultation, who does the other 3 counties?
The state does that. Yep.
Is that by choice?
There's a variety of factors that go into that. I think the state has some long history of there's some delegated counties and then some where they do it themselves. I think it's rather hard to take back delegation locally, but I know it's something that we've been kind of exploring and learning a little bit more about because we'd love to keep it more local because the benefits of being local is more responsive. So if there's an issue, we get there usually the same day, where in the state, it's more a phone call versus being in-person support.
Yep.
So for home and community-based care, this really helps adults and people with disabilities access and coordinate services. These are what we call our case management team. And so they serve 1,363 clients on average on a monthly basis. And we do roughly 529 screenings each year to get people admitted into those services. And then we also provide hospice of Douglas County. It does serve a 30-mile radius of Alexandria, so we do have some Grant County individuals that are part of that program, but it honors the lives of the patients and the families as they go through end of life. One of the things that we like sharing is that being that we're accredited, we have a lot of things in place to really provide high quality services. So looking at our client satisfaction, we do surveys each year. And on average, we have 98.8% of individuals that rate their overall experience with Horizon as satisfied or very satisfied. And so we're very proud of that, and you can kind of see that's kind of maintained pretty consistently over that 97% over the last 3 years. And then one of the things that's really neat is we started using a technology platform called Metopio, which helps us look at data from a variety of secondary sources. So that could be the CDC, the Department of Traffic Safety, a variety of things. And it can give us highlights on a particular county, a particular zip code, a variety of different things. This technology platform is going to help us with our next community health assessment and community health improvement plan. But one of the things I did, just for an example, it took me 1 minute to pull this Grant County Health Highlights report. So it shows where Grant County is doing really well. So Alzheimer's in Medicare beneficiaries is the lowest 5% out of the state. Lowest fraud, larceny, 5% of the state, the very highest 10% of the state in preschool enrollment. Some of the areas where it's not doing so well and compared to some of the states is, like I said, Grant County has the highest arsenic in private wells of all the states. There's not a lot of mental health providers per capita, and we knew that, and that's one of the reasons we have access to mental health services as a CHIP priority. And so this just kind of gives us an idea, and this is the kind of data that we can share with you as you are working towards making decisions and whatnot on priorities.
So I gotta ask you.
Yeah.
So you're saying that our access to mental health services in our county is really low? Is it comparative to other counties or just low?
It's the number of providers per individuals in the county.
So we gotta go out of the county to get providers, that's all it's that thing. But we have access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's still, of course, like virtual access and other things, but as far as in-person mental health services, it's low compared to around the state, the per capita. Yeah, good. Yeah. Then I'm gonna turn it over to Tom.
All right, well, we're gonna talk a little bit about some of the financial information. I'm sorry, it's kind of hard to see from your perspective, so I'll touch based on some highlights. So as Angie mentioned, Horizon is doing a lot of great work. And one of the things that we're proud of is with all this work that we are, helping serve the communities, we are able to keep a very low tax levy. So on the left side here, is kind of your 2024 breakout for local public health fundings through the state of Minnesota. And the yellow highlight on the top, that's the local tax levy. So other public health organizations are funded through their tax levies by about 39%. Whereas on the right side for Horizon, we only receive about 4.3% of our revenues coming from the local tax levy. That being said, we do have a lot of other great funding sources, like the hospice, in the case management support that Angie mentioned. We receive a lot of revenue through them, which allows us to fund some of our other initiatives related to like cannabis and substance abuse, or some of the opioid preventative measures that we're doing. Tina, you can go to the next page. Thank you. So this is showing for our annual tax levy allocation. So as you can see, we have not had an increase in local tax levies, and we won't next year as well. So we've been extremely consistent at under $500,000 combined for all 5 counties. And prior to 2015, as you can see, the contribution from health was over $900,000. So that's really great news that we can provide all these services to the counties and keep taxes low. On the next page, you will see your tax levy per capita. So that's just stating $7, for each member of the population is going to fund health services. Prior to Horizon, Some of the smaller counties were upwards of $30 per member or population. And then some of the bigger ones were around 17. So it's really great to see that we can keep it under $10 on a consistent year-to-year basis. This is a breakout of kind of the different revenue streams for Horizon. So as I mentioned, a lot of our revenue comes from us providing hospice to a couple of the counties. And then we also receive non-competitive grants through MBH and CDC. And then we also have some other funding sources through Prime West Case Management, where it's more of a fee for service for providing case management service. And then we're also always looking for competitive grants, whether that's a private grant through a local organization to help support like the safe drinking water. So we're always out there and looking for new opportunities to provide new services to the communities we serve. This is next page is gonna show you an increase in the grants from 2021 to 2025. So as I mentioned, we are always looking for new grant opportunities, and there are hundreds out there. So over the last 5 years, we've been able to secure an additional 12 grants, which are some competitive and some non-competitive. But I strongly believe that this number will continue to grow as we continue to seek outside sources of funding.
So looking ahead, I'd love to have a close partnership with each of our county boards, and moving forward, if there are health, quality of life, or community issues that you see, is there things that you want to share with us at Horizon as we move forward, and what are the things, and then how can Horizon best partner with you? Is that providing data? Is it education? What does that look like? And so we're always just looking for feedback and ways that we can better collaborate. We have our website that you can certainly connect with us on, but that is the end of the presentation. Is there any questions or feedback?
Thank you for your work, Phil. I've seen it for 8 years, so.
Mr. Chair, I got a couple of statements I'd like to make. This arsenic testing, does MDH do a continued arsenic testing in your service territory?
So we have to apply for grants to do some of that work. And there's a grant that we just applied for that would provide free well water testing with a goal of hitting 10% of wells in each of our 5 counties.
Okay.
The goal of that would be to work with those homeowners to get treatment systems, whether that's RO, sometimes you have to shock the well if there's bacteria in it. There's 5 contaminants that we would test for. But that's a new grant opportunity that we just applied for, and we're hopeful because of the need that we have that we'll receive that additional funding for another 3 years.
Well, we shed some light on that years back, and it sounded like these arsenic little charcoal filters and things like that. There was a kit that you could get out of the SWCDs out here for, anybody that had little babies and things like that, to make sure that that they're getting the arsenic. Because it's high arsenic in that southwest corner of county.
Right.
So, I mean, a city can only do so much for their water treatment plants, you're gonna take it one step further.
Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Ryan?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, so there was high lead concentration, is that from our water or from our pipes?
I don't have that specific detail. It might be a combination, but I do know, specifically Traverse County and I think Grant County have high lead levels in homes. And so I would assume that's from paint or other things. Maybe that's due to some of the age of the homes in the counties. But that might be one contributor. I just am not 100% sure what's the proportion of paint or pipes or what that is.
I know there's a drive to get rid of lead pipes, but if it's not coming from that, it's a state drive, we need to find out why that. If it's not coming from those, then that's not gonna resolve that issue.
Yep.
The city's got lead and copper programs that they've, and they do sampling throughout, the town and things like that. But the biggest share of the lead that surfaced that I know of years back was in the plumbing. the lead in the solder. You know, and when the water warmed up, you know, it transferred into the water. So everybody was supposed to run their tap for 2 minutes, 3 minutes or something like that before they were gonna consume it. That was about where that was at. And I, you know, the towns feed a phosphate, some type of a C9 or C5. Then they keep that level up enough so it coats the plumbing and coats the pipes and everything like that, so it doesn't migrate.
I do think the state is working with cities, as you said. I know WIDSEP does some GIS mapping, and they've been doing GIS mapping of lead pipes in a variety of different regions of the state. And so there's some work going into that, but you're right, that is an area where people are getting exposure to lead.
You know,
Mhm.
Anything else? Well, thank you for coming.
Absolutely. I'm gonna stick around because I think the next action item is around the opioid funding, so.
Then Andy, I don't know, and Tom, we introduced ourselves, but this is Doyle Spear, Villa Valley, Ken Johnson, Troy Johnson, and then me.
Thanks,
Now you put a name to these, we should have done that at the beginning, so,
Thanks for having us.
yeah, thank you.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
All right, the
Okay.
next agenda item, are the Grand County Task Force recommended opioid grant applications. There was a work session, when Public Health was here, some other staff from Public Health, and, you were provided a summary of all the grants that were, reviewed and are being recommended by the local task force. That same summary was in your packet for the board meeting. So this morning, we're looking to share the recommendations from the local task force with the board and looking for the board to approve. And I'm not sure how the board would like to do it, if you want to do it individually or if you want to approve them all, that would be a board decision. But the applications that are being recommended were the ones from the work session and also included in your packet this morning.
Okay, so everybody had a chance to look at that. I think there was 10 of them. Is that right?
Nine.
Or
Nine.
Yeah. So, you know. Everybody's had a good look at them. I say just call for a motion to approve all 9 of them. If you guys so choose, so.
I'll make a motion to approve all of them.
Troy Johnson, made a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Bill LaValle. Any further discussion? Hearing,
Oops.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, just for the recording, so anybody listening, or watching later, just maybe I can list the 9. Do you think
Okay.
that would be good?
Okay,
Okay. So the recommended, funding for the applications includes the Productive Alternatives Grant application for Crisis Stabilization Unit in Hoffman, the Grant County Sheriff's Office for the DARE program, the Grant County Sheriff's Office for their wellness program, Herman Norcross School District for their fitness center, Callan Prep Academy, Skate for Grant to help with the skate park, Treatment Court 8th District, Judicial District, the Pierce Specialist support, Western Prairie Human Services for the Safe Generations Initiative, and the Wheaton Herman Norcross School District's softball field program.
okay, so those are the 9. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Take care.
Thanks, Tina.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, man. Morning. How are you? Good. You got some bridge inspections for it?
See, Kevin might have this with MSA to do our annual bridge inspections. They have an agreement for $11,585. 12 bridges this year that we inspected by them. This will be paid. I don't know if I spoke about this in the past, but several years or years ago, we used to get allotments on the state aid, and before they would send out the allotments, they would take off a little piece to pay for, load ratings and signing on bridges, because the DOT does that work for us. But a couple of years ago, they realized there was too much money in the account for the, wasn't that much work that they said they anticipated, so they created a little account for us, which is our inspection and signing for bridges account. And we get about $6,000 every year in that, and it can only be used for bridges, so. This is pretty much the best way to utilize those funds, is to have somebody do the inspections for us, so. The extra $5,000 would be taken out as regular state aid funding for this, so. We'd just be looking for approval of the engineering service agreement with MSA and our bridge inspection for this year.
Okay. We have a motion to that effect,
As a member of the highway committee, I will make that motion, Mr. Chair.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Troy Johnson, any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Now, Mr. Chair, I got a question. Does Aaron, does he certify himself once in a while as a bridge inspector?
Yeah, he goes with them when they do the inspection, you have to have so much time and experience.
Right.
I don't know if in the future he'll start taking them over and doing them. But it probably depends on how much money we put in this account that we all use for these things.
So man, how many, is there a rotation, a yearly deal there on these bridges or?
If the rotation is it was every 4 years for every bridge, unless they find things, then it would increase the inspection rate. But some of these are in poor condition, so they're inspected every year or every other year until you.
All right, anything else for Matt today? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We were a little bit ahead of time. What do you think, Ian? Let's keep going because I'm gonna be busy here in a little bit, so. So, Grant County Courthouse Security Committee.
I have to admit, I did not bring the list of things to. We met, there's another round of grant funding coming up. And the committee wants to apply for items that I admit I didn't bring that.
Okay.
So there is a county match. My recommendation would be to take that out of reserve. We don't know the total price at this point because we're still gathering those prices. So one of the things is Darren had given an estimate of a price to write, so the courthouse, the cameras in the courthouse, making it so that after hours, if there's motion detected on one of those cameras, in dispatch, rather than seeing like 8 cameras, it'll just be one, you would see where that motion is. That was one of them.
Yeah, so I'll
Yeah, help
help
me
out
out.
a little bit. Sheriff Ifon's here, she can jump in too, but the security assessment that was done of the courthouse is used when we look at the grant application, because we had an assessment done. And the last grant, security cameras were all upgraded. And they do have motion detection already. The piece that we don't have is that alerting piece. So after hours, like Troy said, if there's motion, there'd be some sort of alert to dispatch so they would know that something is happening. Morse Electronics can do that as a special project, and we're write the software, the computer engineering that's needed to make that work with our system, but we're waiting for an estimate from them on what the cost of that would be, so that's one of them. in the assessment, it talked about some places where we had blind spots around the courthouse where we don't currently have cameras. And some of those would be, outdoor cameras. So again, we're waiting for that estimate from Morris Electronics on what that would cost. Can you think of the other things that we talked about?
It's actually in our packet, so motion lights in all of the offices, so if there is motion after hours, there'd be additional cameras that were needed so that they'd be able to see those lights coming on. Especially, you know, lights on the first floor, so if somebody tried to get into an office through a window, that motion is gonna trigger that light to come on automatically.
And those motion lights were installed on the second floor where the courtroom is. We did that to help up there, you know, when there's one person working, so they're, if a light is on in a room, they know someone is in there, like the law library. So they do work. We have them on the second floor. So the idea was is to put them in the other offices in the courthouse as well. And these are all items again that came out of the assessment that was done. And that this specific grant money can be used for. Can you think of anything else, Jen?
Something that I just got an email about, maybe putting an AED into our, into the courthouse. It's a public place.
There is one on the ground floor. Okay, but yeah, maybe an additional one on the second floor in courts. So the idea is we're collecting all the information as far as what the estimates for these projects would be. There's a short turnaround for this grant. It has to be applied for by September 8th. But today was just more informational to the board that, we plan to make application, and now that 50% match is kind of another piece to this, and it can be through in kind. So anytime that sheriff's office puts in or courts puts in can be used towards that as well. But if there is some dollar amount that we have to do for the in match too, then that was the suggestion that Troy had or was talking about.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you guys would like?
You get it. I forget what's it called, they sell. They bring clothes and stuff in and they sell it downtown. Robin.
Oh, double here.
Bargain Bazaar.
Yeah. Cause I know they've been really instrumental in supplying, and they did in Hoffman. Has anyone talked to the Bargain Bazaar people? Yeah.
Yeah.
See if they were still doing that and.
Yeah, they're the ones that I believe, paid for the one on the ground floor already.
Okay.
Mhm.
Got capability to do it again, we should research it.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I got something too. Yeah, we did years back train, had an active shooter. And I think we need to do that.
And I think that is one of the pieces too.
It is, it's in our board packet here, but you know what I mean? We need to do that. Get everybody, so you're planning, so it's more instinct than, just a scurry.
Yeah.
Right?
okay. All
Alright,
right,
if anybody not want us to do it, that's really the big thing. We don't need a motion or anything, but if somebody doesn't wanna do it, they should speak up now or we're gonna proceed forward.
yeah, no, go
So
for
I
it.
guess the question is, it's referencing the grant, with the 50% match. Is there a dollar amount and is the 50% in our upcoming budget?
No, that's where it said that my recommendation would be to take it out of reserves.
Okay.
So we don't know what the dollar amount is yet because we're still waiting back for prices for all this stuff.
Okay.
We just met, I believe it was last week, formulated the plans, and now we're waiting for the prices to come in. So they'll have to be here by September 8th, but even the next meeting isn't, we aren't gonna know necessarily.
So with this grant, Troy, say you apply for $50,000, could they give you whatever? Could they give you like 20 or
So they have.
can they adjust that grant? The people that look at our applications?
So the first time we applied, or not, the first time I applied for it a year ago, that was a 1 million. They have 1 million funds, this is 4 million funds. So they want us to use it if we need something, let's update now.
It's a competitive grant, but our experience, cause We did it in 2017 or 18 as well. Our experience is that we get what we ask for. That doesn't mean we're gonna this time.
No, okay.
And
Is
just the in-kind though, like to your point, Dwight, with $50,000, you know, then the in-kind match. I mean, we could come up with $20,000 worth of people's time working towards it, so then the actual financial piece would be what's left. Or we could get there with all of the in-kind hours, or depending upon what the projects are, what gets approved. So this is just more kind of like Troy said, to make sure the board is okay with moving forward with it, but we'll be coming back with more information once we get all the details.
So question. When we have money set aside for technology, what's the criteria where we decide that this shouldn't be part of our budget and rather than reserves?
So my view on that is because this is a one-time, we don't know that this grant will be available next year. So I don't wanna put something in the budget for 1 year. Because once it's in there, we struggle to get that money back up. So to me, that's the criteria of reserves over putting it in a budget, is it's a 1 year.
I agree. Yep. Okay, anything else? All right. Tina, we got, some other stuff here. Lead us into that.
So the Chippewa watershed is, and I believe Ken, you forwarded along the information to Chad. They're requesting the same, $600 appropriation as previous years for 2027. So again, this is more just informational, for the board that, it's included when we look at the preliminary, it will be in there. And that was their request, and because Ken sits on that board, they chose not to come and speak to the full board, they just submitted through Ken. So that is that item. We did,
Do we need a motion on that?
no,
Oh, okay.
we did remove the Morse Electronics contract, only because, we, are just doing a little more research, because there's new parts to the contract with the merger. And so, Justin Anderson had some time to go through it, so I just needed a little more time to get that situated, so that will be coming to a future board meeting. The next item is Microsoft Office 365. Our technology committee, which consists of all of our department heads, we meet once a month. And Morse Electronics, our technology provider, meets with us. And we talk about things like this, Microsoft Office 365, that transition has been talked about in the past, and it's kind of a mixed bag of emotions, right? Because when we make the transition, it's something new, and with something new comes that transition of change and learning it and things like that. However, Morse Electronics, after discussing, you know, the big picture, the comprehensive picture of how we operate with technology in Grant County, they are advising that we do make the transition to Microsoft 365 in 2027, and the earlier the better, because prices are going up. And so in the board packet, with the information provided, we would need 63 licenses, and that's because that's how many staff we have. And those licenses, comes to a $19,126.80 price tag, to do that. So I would be looking to the board for a motion to either approve or deny the request to transition to Microsoft Office 365 for our staff for the cost of $19,126.80.
Okay. So we'll be looking for a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Earl makes a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Troy Johnson. Any further discussion?
I got a question, Mr. Chair. So we're moving to Teams with virtual stuff then? Is there a different app that you have to reload on that system, or is that all?
We'll have to go through all that training, but yes, we would be if
If you've been to a virtual meeting for Western Prairie, have you been to one? Same app,
Okay,
that's Teams.
Right, well, we've got teams for emergency services board.
There you go, same there.
Okay,
And so-
I didn't know if it was changing.
An important point to that fact, or to that, is, with this, transition to Microsoft Office, we would be switching from Zoom to Teams, so we would be able to cancel our Zoom subscriptions at that time, but because of our historical, complicated relationship with the Zoom, trying to get all those licenses figured out a year ago, and we just now are completing that project. We're not gonna cancel until we're set up with Teams to make sure there's no lapse. And then the county board meetings would go from, we would be using Zoom, we'd be using Teams, and we'll have to do some public education about that with the public, because again, it's a transition. So there'll be phases of this, and there'll be training to include commissioners and all staff on Microsoft Office 365 as well.
Well, if it's the same app, then, yeah, I think, but I didn't know if there was something that was gonna change.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
All right, the last thing I have, for the board is the US Fish and Wildlife, and they were here and presented to the board, I believe it was the last meeting. They offered to do a field tour. And, they sent the options, and that was included in your packet, so I'm just looking for the board to agree to the date that you would like to do that. I don't have the board packet right in front of me, but it's in there. On the date, and then the time slot would be 12:30 to 4:30 p.m.
Okay, they have, the first choice is September 15th. Second choice, September 1st. And the plan includes our tour from 12:30 to 4:30.
So yeah, does the board want the 15th? That's their first choice, but they could also do the first.
What is the 15th? What day is it?
The board meeting day.
That's a board
Oh,
meeting.
sure,
day.
sure. Yeah,
Third Tuesday. Is there a lot going on the 15th, so the first would probably be a better fit, or? I guess
They're both board days.
yeah. So the first would be.
they are, but I mean, the first is,
First would probably be the busiest, wouldn't it? You never know.
Well, maybe, maybe not, because
Yeah.
are you gonna set the levy, the budgets and everything on the 15th?
Yeah, that's true.
that's where I'm at.
So September 1st,
Okay, I'll let them know.
so. Do we have any board members here that aren't going on that tour?
Don't know them today.
I'll let them know that you guys chose September 1st, and then the information they send me out, I'll get out to the board members, so.
Okay.
They'll probably do an RSVP.
Okay. All right, sounds good. So.
We take a little break.
Yeah, we'll take a little break here till environmental services gets here. Any order to go down? We
Oh, good. It was nice to, the college lady.
Yep. Very good. That was very good.
I'm just catching up on.
No, well, yes, at 10 o'clock, don't start the public.
Get the email, so.
I mean, I just don't know.
Yeah, you know, I think.
I got it. Sure.
Ask. An agenda to go on here. You would ask them, ask them where. And then, yeah, we don't have.
I didn't know. My office here. Alright, so I really. Yeah, it was different, but it's like. No, I should understand what I mean.
You gotta have.
Never, I can share the variation, so. So I can be the number of.
There's government licenses.
Yeah. The.
Brian, accident, you're on down. They've had this Golf tournament.
You don't want to. Thank you very
Yeah, sorry, I moved
Yeah.
But when I used to was Saturday. So in the Jimson, yeah, all those. How's it going today? Very good, friend.
I believe that's their. I know. Yeah. Hard.
It's like with that. I mean, a couple. I mean,
It's big rain last night. There was must so rain there. Then two tests on the. Gotta get in, but. 3 o'clock rain.
Yeah.
It's up to the cities to figure
Very,
out. So what I did was I just.
20 minutes, it wasn't like just 5 seconds.
There you go.
20 minutes is.
Give me anything. You wanna find.
In the night?
You do whatever to get in line for something.
Almost been, I don't think, we have an officer before.
Right?
Yeah, no, we didn't
Do
do
it,
it.
we need to, if you see fairness to blame.
Yeah, they should.
That's a lot of money.
That would.
What do you do? That's pretty good. I just said. I have no clue where it's at. That's what I said. No clue for it.
The grant would have done what they did. Right, yeah, they had their, everything went door.
They're in the middle of
3 weeks.
or you can go farther from. Guys over here, we're making.
I've actually seen it.
If you want, we can here.
No, I'm fine with it. Are you sure? Back or you front? Nope, you got it right.
How are you?
Not maybe you. Right.
Keeping the bags. The camera can't shoot the guy.
It should be right there. But they find a way for. The lightning goes straight.
You know, you you're the lead up there.
Mention that. We need to. Lightning strike, I was trying to.
Colorful, say that.
Oh, you bet. Good, good. There's a lot of areas.
That's right.
I don't care.
Tim, how are you? Well, it's summertime, we're all busy. Morning, morning, Ronnie.
How are you?
Hey, here you go.
How are you doing?
I'm great, how are you? Who's the gentleman in the city went to that?
Either way.
That's me.
Oh. The first one on the.
Yeah.
Right, that's Johnson from Barrett. He's Barrett. Yeah, that's Johnson. And the rest of them.
The county commissioners, you know.
Don't think so.
So.
Which one is county?
The five gentlemen sitting up front.
I wasn't expecting that, so.
Not all.
I think it's. So I didn't get the chance.
Morning, Charlie.
Back to work.
Good.
I'm sorry for
Well said. Okay. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's all through this.
Good day. I've been trying to wear for a while, I don't think it's, reverse. I go back there, I'll stop you. No, right.
No wonder you got some. Yeah, it's very small.
It's morning, it's raining. Okay, all right, you ready to go, Rick?
I am.
All right.
Do the other part first. So the first deal on the agenda is our PAC appointment. So last week we had a PAC meeting, and if you guys remember at the last board meeting, you directed us to do interviews since we had 2 applicants for that open seat for Troy's district. So we did, we had 2 applicants, Thomas Lee and Donald Lacey. The PAC interviewed both of them and then recommended that Tommy Lee take the open seat. So. And Dwight did a good job of thanking both of them for applying and saying how much we appreciate folks taking interest in, these committees and commissions and things like that, so.
We're looking for a motion to approve.
So,
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried.
And the next item on there is the Eagle View contract for photometry flights, so apparently we have, when was the first flight, 2012? So since 2012, we have had Eagle View flying photometry flights. So that is, so we get the high res imagery for all of our different JS apps, for all of the common website stuff, all that kind of thing. Our contract is up here this year, so they came and gave us another one. And it is the same price as the last 3 flights for the next 3 flights. Which Ron and I were very surprised at and very pleased with. And we've got, I think, some really good imagery the last couple of times, and if there's any issues, they're pretty quick to correct them and work on getting them going.
In 2027 is another flyover year.
That'd be next year.
So, and we're on a 3-year flyover basis.
Yep.
So then it'd be 2030 after that.
Yep, and I think legally we need every 5 years, or our policies every 5, but with all the buffer requirement stuff. Every 3 is when we review those, so then we use part of that repair and aid money we get from the state to pay for part of that flight as well, so.
Mr. Chair, Reed, I got a question for you. Is the Board of Sue part of this then too? Are they?
It flies theirs, but they don't pay for it.
Who else pays besides us around the area?
Us and the riparian.
Okay.
It's a huge asset between the assessor's office verifying land, fields, houses, new additions, with sheriff's office being able to see different items, the land management. I mean, we use it daily. It's probably one of the first applications that gets opened up every day. So it's a vital part of our office.
Right, so we use it every day.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Bill makes a motion. We have a second.
Second.
Second by Troy Johnson. Any further discussion?
Read what was the price?
The price is 31,140 a year.
31,140.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Gotta wait my longest minute again.
You better wait.
They get shorter when we get older.
That's true.
Somehow it is.
Okay, it's 10 o'clock. And this is the start of the public hearing for the wind ordinance. Okay, I want to welcome everybody here today. Thanks for coming. And we're gonna do just a quick review of the procedure of the public hearing. Okay, so number one, the board chair will read the public notice. Number two, the public will have an opportunity to speak to the board. You're gonna come and sit at that table where Reed is there. And you state your name and address, and where you're from, city or township or company. Let's see, first opportunity, you'll have 3 minutes to talk. After everyone has an opportunity to address the board, a second opinion will be available for 2 additional minutes. The board clerk will set a timer. Okay, just some reminders here. This portion is for the board to listen. You must be in front of the table to speak, no speaking for the audience, okay? You will be addressing only the board. And we were only discussing the wind ordinance, no other ordinances such as solar, data centers, etc. will be discussed. Once all the public has the opportunity to speak to the board will then discuss among themselves. The conduct of the public hearing will be professional and respectful at all times. Okay, so I'm gonna read this notice of public hearing. Okay, notice of public hearing and intent to adopt a moratorium on the issuance of a conditional use permits for the construction of wind energy conversion systems within the county of Grant. Notice is hereby given pursuant to Minnesota statute 394.34 that the Grant County Board of Commissioners intends to adopt a moratorium on the issuance of conditional use permits for construction of wind energy conversion systems within the county of Grant, pursuant to authority in Minnesota State Statutes 394. The ordinance will be considered at a meeting of the Grant County Board of Commissioners held on the first floor meeting room at the Grant County Office Building, 15 Central Avenue North, Elbow Lake, Minnesota, on Tuesday, August 18, 2026 at 10 a.m. The proposed moratorium on the issuance of conditional use permits for the construction of wind energy conversion systems within the county of Grant is available on the Grant County website. The purpose of the moratorium is to allow time to study the existing ordinances, consider new ordinances, ordinance amendments, and or additions specific to wind energy production facilities. Copies of the proposed new ordinance are on file in the offices of the Grant County Auditor and the Environmental Services Office. This was dated August 5th, 2026. So with that, if somebody wants to start, this is the public where you can talk. So Reed, if you can come right up here, sir, and sit down. That way we can, everybody can see you out in the TV land there, so.
Good morning, Chairman Gilbany and members of the board. My name is Raul Slavin. I am Managing Director of Aspen Energies. We are based in Minneapolis, 1350 Lincoln Avenue, Minneapolis. I am speaking on behalf of Grant County Wind, which is a company that owns the Grant County Wind project. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. Grant County Wind respectfully asks the board to reject the proposed wind energy conversion system moratorium. Grant County Wind supports the study and update of WEX rules in order to clarify and modernize them. This not only helps protect health and safety, but also gives the industry a clear framework to propose projects for consideration in the future. However, the proposed ordinance would prevent the county even from accepting an application, including a potential application to modernize an existing permitted local wind project such as ours. We feel that this goes too far and would have a disproportionate negative impact on our business without significantly adding protections to county residents. As far as we are aware, Grant County Wind is the only wind project operating in the county. We are currently evaluating plans to modernize and repower the wind park, which is reaching its 20th year of operation. Any such repower would necessarily keep the project at its current 20 megawatt size, because that's the limit of our interconnect. And for the same reason, it would also keep it in its current location. But most likely, the repower would involve fewer, more efficient modern turbines. If the proposed moratorium is enacted, we would be prevented from even beginning discussions with the county towards the goal of modernizing the project. This would only extend the time during which the wind park is currently designed continues operating without an upgrade. If the board concludes that an interim ordinance is necessary, we ask that it be narrowly tailored to preserve a process for the county to accept and evaluate an existing facility repowering application, subject of course to all otherwise applicable requirements. Those include rules that are currently in force that regard siting, setbacks, engineering certifications, decommissioning, noise, FAA compliance, communications interference, roads, and drainage. We're happy to discuss further and answer any questions, and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Does anybody else choose to make a statement?
I guess I'm not prepared to, but I have some notes written down that I can. Charity Carlson, from Norcross, North Ottawa Township, and you guys have already heard everything I really have to say. I just want to remind you that, again, this ordinance is 17 years old. Repowering is not maintenance. I heard him say repowering. I think there's a lot of questions that go into what does he mean by repowering? And a moratorium is, again, it's not we're not banning that wind farm. We're just banning anything, any significant changes. They can still do all their maintenance. They can still, do what they need to do. I think, gotta remember that these towers are 262 feet tall. And again, newer ones can be up to 850 feet tall. You had said, Dwight, earlier, that you can review the newest, the interim ordinance. Do we have a copy of that? Like, has Reed written a new interim ordinance?
No, the only one we can vote right now is that moratorium ordinance, the interim one is not, no. The moratorium will then get us to do the.
Okay, so we don't even have a draft to review or anything, okay. Without that, I guess I don't really have anything else other than just to remember that maintenance and repowering are two very different things when it comes to. And also one more thing, I did, hear last week that there were talks of another wind farm, in our county. I don't have any details on it, but again, with that information, I think it's really important that we do proceed with the moratorium. That is all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary.
Okay, wait a minute, we just gotta see if anybody else wants to talk first. Come on up, sir.
Let's see who I am.
Yep.
Ron Prawl, I'm a local resident and I'm on the township board of Roseville Township where the project is. And if it would not be repowered and it would be the end of it. The financial consequences on the township. It's a small township and watching the pennies always, and we're getting about $15,000 a year, roughly $12,000 to $15,000 a year out of the tax base, and that's quite a bit in our levy, what we do. And I'm not sure of how much the county gets, but I know the county gets, and the word on the street is the county's always looking for a little more money. And I'm unaware of what the school gets, and I know the school district gets a pretty good chunk. All that would have to come from elsewhere. I don't know where that would be, so. I guess my advice is, or my belief is, we should keep it going for the financial end of it. And I'm not living in Alexandria and having the towers out 30 miles from home
I live right in amongst them. I live closest to any of them, I guess, for the impact of life, I guess I don't see it, I guess is my opinion. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Ron. Anybody else, for the first round here? Nobody else? Okay, sir, you got 2 minutes.
Thank you. I just, thank you very much. I want to just clarify that we absolutely agree, repower is not maintenance and we're not trying to state that it would be. A repower is a different thing, it does require consultation with the county. In order for this to work as an industry, in order for it to work as a particular project, that interaction is important. What we feel is counterproductive of a moratorium is that it stops, it closes the door of being able to have those conversations. These are very, very long, complicated projects, lots of moving pieces, lots of different parties, financiers need to be involved, the FAA, I'm sorry, I don't know your last name.
Carlson.
Ms. Carlson talked about, very tall turbines. The FAA has a regulation that limits 500 feet for turbines, but that's another entity with whom the projects needs to be approved. So the process is very, very long. And the problem with a break, with a moratorium, it just closes the door to even being able to have these conversations. So again, our ask is, we understand, I think it's very important for all counties to be very much involved in the development of renewable energy projects in the county, absolutely. But if you close the doors, then you're closing the door for conversation. So we're saying, please do revise, and I totally agree with Nick Carlson. The regulations are too old, they must be updated. We totally agree, and we'd like to help participate in that process. But don't close the door any doors in the meantime, especially at this time when there's, in our case in particular, and generally, there's a lot of development that needs to happen right at this time in order to meet certain deadlines. Thank you.
Thank you.
I got a question for the gentleman there. So you got any other projects in different states that you're pursuing and working on and things like that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we have projects in Minnesota and one project in Nebraska. So we have 2 projects in Jackson County, one in Ottawa County and in Grand County, and then one project in Nebraska. We specialize in mid-scale projects, so small projects. These are not 100 turbine projects. There's 20, 30 megawatt projects at the largest.
Okay. So next question, have you torn, some of these wind towers down and landfilled them? And gotten rid of them and upgraded, and have you done any of that?
Yes, so in a project in Nebraska, that was a full repower where we took the turbines, removed them completely, refilled, and then installed new turbines. In a lot of them were in very close locations to where the old ones were, because they were good locations, other ones were in good locations. In the case of a project we did most recently in Jackson County, we were actually able to use the towers from the existing project and replace the generator and the rotor. That has a lot of advantages. One of them, it makes it easier for the land management. It makes it easier. You don't have to run the cables. You still need to go to the county for approvals because that's to Ms. Carlson's point, that's not maintenance, that's a repower. And that worked. What happened in that project, and I think would happen if we did a repower here, we were able to reduce the number of turbines. We were able to remove one because the turbines now are more efficient, they're more productive, so you can do more with less. But again, the point is, this is still major work that doesn't require initial use permits.
So did you repurpose, the blades and the motors and everything like that, recycle them and,
That's a third party work. We had companies that came in that took them away. What exactly happens at the end of the line with those? I know that there's some, the metal definitely gets recycled, the metal components, generators, gearboxes. With blades, there's some work, some companies do the work of recycling them, which basically reduces it to the core material to something else. I cannot tell you exactly what happened with the blades that have gone up from the turbines because we have not, so they take them away and deals with that.
Well, I read an article where they're landfilling them out in Wyoming.
There are projects that are taking, blades and other components, and are doing that with them, yes, it's a challenge for the industry, as with many industries, right, the dealing with the waste once projects reach the end of their lives. Frankly, Commissioner, it's the same as the, in construction, it's a problem that exists across the board. There, because of the nature of renewable energy, it's something that the industry is very aware of though, and it's working to improve. So there are projects to do all sorts of things with recycling, including building things from existing turbine, blades. I've seen play yards created with blade parts and that kind of thing. So it is, I will not tell you it's a perfect, solution right now. It is a problem that we're working on.
Well, it looks like Wyoming's landfill had held about 1,124 wind turbine blades. But a Missouri cement plant has already found a second life for 7,000.
There's hope.
So they're doing, and, we gotta renew, we gotta recycle, we gotta do things like that, so it's, I don't know. We can't landfill them in this county, we don't do permit rules anymore, or things like that, so, upgrades long term, you're gonna have to address that. At some point, if this thing, goes full circle. Okay, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I had asked Carl, and he sent us the breakdown of the taxes, there's $50,985 that for the 10 towers for the county and 12,746 for the township.
Oh, okay.
For a total of 63,731.
Was
Tax
there
impact.
anything for the school?
It doesn't list the school, so I'm not sure if that's exempt. I'm not sure unless they get a portion of their county.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Reed, you wanna come back up here then? Yep. Okay, so, does anybody, we should discuss this now, or does anybody have any questions for Reed about this, or, Reed, can you tell us what you have?
Yeah, maybe I can give you kind of the call options. So the options right now that you guys have to make a decision on today is one, you can table it to another meeting, or talk to it again, or make a decision at a later date. You can deny the moratorium, you can approve the moratorium, or you can approve it with that amendment where it has kind of like that carve out for the existing wind facilities in the county. And Justin did weigh in on the amendment, he said that was allowed and that was something that can be added, so those are kind of your four. And it's kind of whatever way you guys want to go based on what you're in today.
Any comments?
I got a comment. So I have a question. Not knowing what the repowering style of height, style, or whatever would be. If we page forward and said we were redoing our ordinance. We didn't, whatever that is, would the new ordinance grant the existing or what you're planning on doing, yes or no?
They could still do that project yet. The kind of the point of our redoing the ordinance either now or at kind of like that priority plan that we laid out a couple months ago. The point would be to update the setbacks at that time, update the ordinance, make sure it has the most current like decommissioning kind of language or anything like that. So, and I would use the surrounding counties and some other counties that have a lot more facilities than we do as kind of templates on where to get stuff that we have with other ordinances. So yes, they could.
So so the 2.5 or 2.8, the under 20, whatever.
Megawatt, yeah, the 20 megawatts.
Would that style, what he's proposing, be what we would adopt?
Yeah, that would be just fine, because like you said, the existing infrastructure can only take so much time or so much power, so that's kind of what it looks at.
So then, Mr. Chair, when we do the ordinance, if the setbacks and the requirements and the decommissioning and all the pertinent information would be in the ordinance, then I think we should grant, since there is an existing site, the approval for them to do the repowering. A, because there's a great tax impact, and B, it is modernization, and I don't know that it's going away. And so it's kind of a timing issue. And the fact that we would grant it in the future, we should, and it's an existing site, I think we should grant the exception with the restrictions like you were referring to. That makes sense?
Wait, can I say anything?
Yeah.
I think you need to remind yourself that because you put a moratorium in place, the county and the township are still getting the money next year. It doesn't stop the project. And if you're allowing them to repower, that's kind of defeating the purpose of this moratorium, because they can go, the setbacks aren't in place. So they can go up and put up bigger towers if you grant the exception. That makes no sense to me.
You gotta address that, because from what I understand from our discussion, that can be part of the permit, so address that, Reed.
So like any other conditional use permit, you know, when it goes through like the normal one through shoreline, it goes through the pack, they say, here are conditions, and I bring it to you. Just like at any time, you guys can then pack on different conditions, or if you don't think the pack's conditions are strict enough or are too strict, you can amend those how you guys see. So if the setback is 750 feet, but you guys go, I think it should be 1,000, or it's gonna be 1,000 in the new ordinance, or whatever we think the new ordinance is gonna say, you can then add that as your condition of the conditional use permit as well. And my assumption is there's going to be lots of conversations before any sort of repower application comes to you. Because there's quite a few documents that need to get filled out and get done before I even bring it to the path or you or anything else.
That's kind of what, that's what I was saying, is if we apply the conditions of this site, the same conditions that we will approve in the new ordinance, it's a timing issue.
If I may, and want to be a turn, but again, what we're asking for is don't close your doors, don't have the moratorium right now, definitely work on new rules. We approve that, but don't close the doors to the process of being able to come to you with projects.
I got a question for you. So is there any recourse for your company if you apply for a conditional use permit? Our old ordinance says, 750 feet, but we want it more. Is there any recourse for you to go off the old ordinance?
I'm not prepared as an attorney, and we decided not to bring an attorney here, so I don't feel very comfortable answering that question. But I can answer from the point of view, these are very long-term projects, and our point, obviously there are going to be people in the community that are going not to be happy with different projects. We want the board to approve the project. So we're going to design a project that gets approved of the board and makes sense for the county and for y'all. Again, I applaud if today we were looking at new regulations, I would be applauding that. My point is, don't close the door. Yes, work on regulations, but don't close the door for a year, maybe plus, while that happens. If tomorrow new regulations gets approved by the board, we will design a project based on those new regulations. But right now, there's an existing framework, which we would look at and we would use to propose projects to you, and that would open the door to communications.
Mr. Chair, I got a question. So you're talking interconnecting utility now, is this actually gonna help Otter Power with their renewable and their 5% or whatever that percentage is nowadays? Is that kind of, you guys are kind of pairing up with that process and, working with those guys, or how's that all work?
So our project sells electricity to Northern State Power, and it's through Otter. And without too many details that I would need, and Raul, please jump in if you have more details, but yes, we are part of their portfolio of renewable energy projects. I will say part of the issue with modernization, which is not maintenance, has to do with the quality of the power that the turbines produce for Otter Tail. The newer turbines, part of the reason we want to modernize is that the control systems on these turbines will permit them to generate a cleaner electricity from the point of view of electrical engineers helping.
So yeah, with repowering, we would need to work with our interconnection agreement for a what's the word I'm looking for? No, just like a modernization of the project. It's non-substantial, so it's basically an update to our interconnection agreement saying that we're changing to newer turbines with better technology, and then there would be cooperation with Otter Tail Power Company and MISO. And like Raul was saying, the current turbines, they are older technology that has limited capabilities in terms of reactive power. With newer turbines, that would be addressed and would allow the project to deliver more stable energy, and like Raul was referring to, cleaner in that sense, where the project is able to support the grid with, you know, some instabilities that you might see due to its own grid conditions or environmental conditions that might impact the quality of the power.
As with any new technology, you know, newer installations, new technology will be more efficient and less waste in terms of energy production that goes into the grid. So overall, it will be a more efficient electricity production process.
So how high would these new ones be compared to what's out there?
So we're not ready to make a proposal right now, and it's part of the reason why we're asking for the moratorium not to happen. We're evaluating different options. What I can tell you definitely is that there's a limitation from the Federal Aviation Authority of 500 feet. So no universe would the total height, including the tip height, be higher than that. So that's a limitation from the, I'm sorry?
Hey, I have seen towers bigger than that. So
You can do that, but for our purposes, for the type of projects that we're proposing, we would not be able to get and definitely with the limitations, and there's no particular need to go higher than 500 feet. The process of turbines at 5 foot higher than 500 feet, sometimes you do see those in much larger projects. That's beyond the scope of what we're looking at. But again, what would probably be different is that the rotor diameter would probably be larger. What that means is that there's more production per single turbine, and this is why we can eliminate typically one. We're looking at different options. We're even looking at options of reducing the park to 6 turbines from the 10, which is an extreme case. And obviously that would have smaller footprint for the project as a whole. The reason you can consider doing that is the generators go from 2 megawatt generator now per turbine to 3.25 megawatt turbine generators. They're much larger machines. Again, modern machines, they're GE machines rather than the Suslons are there now. So hopefully better maintenance, etc.
Okay. So what's the height of them now?
262.
They're about 265, that's about there.
To the generator or to the tip plate? To the blade?
I would just see what it says 89 meters on the half, or no. 60 meters.
Any other question?
You mentioned the output, it can't go over 20?
That's correct. Our interconnect is 20 megawatt. It's actually 19.95 megawatts. So no matter what we're talking about, it's the project cannot be larger. Our project cannot be larger than that unless there's a completely new transmission, interconnect point.
And I'll add to that, that's for, output at an instant, so. With newer technology, the turbines would be able to generate more energy than throughout a year than what the current, site is designed to. So with some of the preliminary studies, we found that potentially be up to 30% more than what the current project is able to generate.
I got a question, Mr. Chair. Let's talk about the decommissioning. The financial implications, the risk. Where are we at with that review?
As far as what we,
Well, we don't have anything in our ordinance now, but from what I
I
understand.
think
We do have a little bit.
the ordinance has a snippet piece, kind of a standard.
Like
They will,
$5,000.
like they will, but based on what it was that current time, that's one of those things that will get updated. But remember, the current site was not permitted as a wind energy site because we didn't have an ordinance at all when that site came online.
So
It was
what
permitted through a like a substation east.
So what I'm getting at is, let's say there is risk for Grand County, and in the conditional use permit, we apply stipulations to address the risk. Is your company prepared to satisfy our requirements to risk? Or is that gonna be a deal breaker?
Well, honestly, it depends on what the requirements are, but every county, every project has either decommissioning requirements and guarantees. They work in different ways, and presumably without knowing obviously what this board will come up with. Yes, absolutely, it makes perfect sense that counties require that projects have some sort of assurance that they will be able to decommission the projects. As do the landowners, right? Because it's you get upset that the people who really are going to have to deal with a problem if a project gets abandoned by the developer, the landowner. Part of the reason that we want to encourage you and all counties to take into consideration the point of repowering is a good way of encouraging decommissioning of projects is to encourage repowering, right? Because what you're doing is saying, okay, there's an economic reason why the project should be decommissioned because you're going to be able to continue doing business. And if you don't, then you're going to have a problem. So sort of the policies that have a cliff are just make it harder for a developer to say, well, I'm gonna go into this county and do this, but there's a cliff where I don't know if we're gonna be able to repower. That's a harder thing to sell to a company, a bank, et cetera, and say, yeah, it's a county that understands that eventually there's gonna be a repower. The repower is going to require good decommissioning of the turbines that are there, good stewardship of the land, et cetera. That's all makes a lot of sense. And again, it's part of every project that we've done. And one thing I wanted to clarify, we didn't build this project, we bought it. We built every other project in our portfolio, so I picked one that's actually that we bought more recently. But so this project, we inherited it. We weren't the original builders, but we hope to be able to refurbish it, repower it.
So that was a long answer to my, re-ask my question. What's an example of the financial requirements to address our risk?
So
a dollar amount.
Typically,
Is it
there
400,000? Is it 500,000?
I have seen $100,000 per megawatt, or per $100,000 per megawatt bonds, bond requirements. Which is typical. I've seen parent company guarantees. I've seen
250,000, 2.5 megawatt, 100,000, 20. How does $250,000 relate to direct costs to decommission?
So generally, in other words, you're asking me how would it impact the project, or you're asking me how much?
Well, the risk, because you hear about these situations where companies walk away and landowners stuck, and we don't want to be part of that risk factor. So address that.
So we've seen this other parent company guarantees with a auditing requirement. Which fundamentally means that the county has to get an evidence that the company's good standing and ability to deal with with the decommissioning requirement, backed by the ability for the county to require some sort of guarantee, which is typically a bond. So a bond is an insurance instrument which has a premium. And I imagine you know how that would work, which is basically the bond would need to continue being supported by the company at the end of the project life. If the company doesn't do the work, then the bonding entity, the insurance company, would step in and pay for that cost of repairing.
Does that make sense for you? Yeah, and I think kind of what you're saying too is part of the repower cost project is the decommissioning of what is existing. Cause you couldn't repower
Exactly.
anything with the existing ones still there.
Exactly, there's a portion, and that's just from the point of view, the economics of it, again. When you do the financial model for a project, you're assuming the cost of decommissioning. That's just GAAP accounting, right? You need to take a certain allotment for the obligation of the decommissioning at the end of the day, and that's great. However, it looks much more attractive when you're selling it to a bank, if you say, well, at the end of this useful life of the project, it's going to be recommissioned, it's going to get a second life. Than to say, yeah, that's the end of the project, because obviously there's more potential revenue from the project.
Dwight, can I say a couple of things?
Yeah.
So in the last packet that I gave you, there was a turbine in Chippewa County. It cost them $410,000 to decommission it. There was one in Nobles that cost $532,000. I also think that while I'm not opposed to their repowering project, I feel like they're really jumping the gun here. We're here to talk about a moratorium. I feel like all the information they're giving is something they would give if they were applying for a conditional use permit to repower it. I think today we need to remind ourselves that we're here to talk about a moratorium for all of the things I've explained in the last couple of meetings.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question, Mr. Chair. So you call yourself Aspinall Energies, correct?
Yes.
Who is the parent company of that?
So Aspinall Energies is owned by a family company called Treehouse Investments. And it's my family. We're originally from Puerto Rico, and if you ask me where Aspinall came from, it's a name we picked out of a hat.
Yeah, it's very
It's
classical.
Good Irish name.
Yeah, absolutely. So what does Delaware mean? It shows that you're Delaware in parentheses LLC. What's that mean?
So the reason it's called that is because originally our original company, which is based in Puerto Rico, where I'm originally from, was called Aspinall Energies. And we tried to do work in Puerto Rico, and unfortunately it was very difficult to do work there without laying blame on different practices. So we started looking for different places to invest to work, and actually Grand County was the first project that we found outside of Puerto Rico, which is a spinning project that had been developed by a company out of New Jersey, and the company was interested in selling it at the time, and so we bought it, and we realized that I always like to say it's hard to do business everywhere. At least in Minnesota, it's logically hard. You have reasons why things are hard. So we then built a project in Jackson County, and then we decided to move up here. So we incorporated a new company, and we did it in Delaware because that's the way that we're told to do it by our lawyers. So that's why it's called Aspinall Energies Delaware, to distinguish it from Aspinall Energies, which is a Puerto Rican entity.
Well, Delaware tells me that's East Coast. You know what I mean?
I understand.
So it's, you're talking entrepreneurs billionaires that are out there that are figuring out they can get 2% out of something. You know what I mean? So moving forward.
I understand. We'll drop the Delaware, but our headquarters are in Minneapolis, so there's that.
So I don't know, this county in this area of the state you know, you've probably done your wind studies, so you know where your wind tunnels are out in that neck of the woods, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, you know, we do grow grain in this county, you know what I mean? So, I mean, is there any other region of the nation that would be more affable than coming out here into the breadbasket of the nation? As far as, you know, crop production?
So, couple of things for that. Part of the reason why there are not a lot of wind projects in Grant County compared to some of the counties down south is actually the wind in Grant County isn't as strong as the wind down south. And quite frankly, part of the reason why we're asking for there not to be a moratorium at this point is because we don't, and you see our applications, but we don't think that there's going to be a lot of new projects that are going to come in right now, which is, and if that's the case, that's why we're saying the alternative will at least give us a carve out. As far as grain production, we're looking at some of our landowners here. Wind, as opposed to solar, and I don't want to badmouth solar, but wind works really well with agricultural land. Yes, it does take an impact on the land, absolutely. There is a certain reduction of crop production where the wind turbine goes and where the paths, absolutely. However, it fits well with the cycles of agricultural production. A lot of these projects have, and I think the new generation of contracts. They pay a percentage of revenue from the wind production to the landowners. Which is a model that resembles the model of agricultural production. So good wind year, there's a bigger pay. Less good wind year, there's always a minimum payment that goes through. So the wind in the United States is in the Midwest. We are really blessed in this country by having a wonderful wind resources. We in the United States have one of the best wind resources in the world, but that's combined with a wonderful load. So there's the need for it and really very good transmission. So that combination makes the US Midwest just one of the best places for wind in the world. It's a wonderful resource. There's better wind in southern Argentina, but there's nobody living in southern Argentina, right? There's better wind in northern Canada, same problem.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Any other discussion?
I think if we're talking about a moratorium on new, and I'm not a lawyer, a quick search, as long as, Reed, correct me if I'm wrong, but as long as we have reasons and we document those reasons why we would deviate in a conditional use permit from our existing ordinance, we have the strong footing to do so. So rather than having a 500-foot setback, we could say it's a 1.5 setback. We can change those things. We can change our decommissioning plan because we have a moratorium in place on new, and we're gonna be changing two. So that conditional use permit could match what's gonna be, or what we're proposing to be in an ordinance. So I don't know that this has to all come, their plan to repower doesn't have to come to a halt. Let's say that they apply in 2 weeks. We can say at this point, no, because we don't know what our setbacks are. Is that a close statement to, so we have a reason at this point to deny it. We need more time to know what our setbacks are gonna be, or decommissioning is gonna be. So I don't think we have to bring their work to a screeching halt at this point. We can say no to any new for the year, but I think the existing, we have one. And they've kind of laid out that that's what they're planning on doing over the next year, but they need that communication. That's my input on it.
So, Mr. Chair, just to make sure I heard what you said. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. What you said is that it doesn't stop them from proceeding because we still got a conditional use permit, right?
Right, if they want to repower, they're gonna have to get a new conditional use permit.
Right.
And our current, I don't know, what is their current setback say?
750 feet to a resident, but
remember, if we pass the moratorium without the amendment, then the answer is no, there is no add-on saying there's no additional uses. No, there's moratorium, no permit. If we
Right, but
with the-
instead of saying 750 feet to a resident, we could say it's gotta be 1.5 times the height.
Right.
Which, whether that's 750 feet or not, I don't know. I don't know what their final proposal on tower height would be, but that, I mean, you're setting a condition, you could set conditions for what our decommissioning plan is going to look like rather than what's currently there.
Yes, and so that's my point is the moratorium with the condition that they continue their process, and we did the SEPTA with the victims.
Anybody else? Well, guess we'll call for a motion from somebody. Would read, so there.
Four options, yep. So
Four different.
table it, another meeting, you can deny the moratorium, you can pass the moratorium. Or you can pass the moratorium with that amendment, that call out for the current existing wind facility.
I'll make a motion on the last one that you stated. If you would read it for me.
Sure, we can pass the current wind moratorium with the amendment for current wind facilities.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Roy Johnson. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote on it.
I'm just gonna reread the motion to make sure I got it right. A motion was made by Ken Johnson, seconded by Troy Johnson. To approve a moratorium with the amendment for the current facility. Okay. Doyle,
Aye.
Bill,
No.
Dwight,
Aye.
Troy,
Aye.
Ken.
Aye.
Okay, so 4-1, motion carried. Okay,
I will have, have a copy for you to sign tonight, and then I will get it up to Holly, and it'll get recorded, and then we will start working on the.
Can I ask what it specifically is gonna say, like what is the exception?
Call out as will be what their kind of draft language was, because it basically says, yes. There's moratorium, but because we're an existing facility, you could accept our application if you meet all the different things.
Are we gonna have that laid out specifically? I think you guys are opening a huge can of worms by doing that, but that's my opinion.
okay. Well, thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. Okay. Board committee updates, board committee update, budget, finance committee.
Maybe just wait a second.
And we'll take our time getting out. Thanks, you guys.
It's just hard to hear sometimes with all the shuffling, so.
Sorry. Okay, committee report, budget and finance committee, Troy and Bill.
We met yesterday.
Right, so the proposed timeline is we will present on the first, in a work session, we will present the preliminary budget and go through it. And then I think we were gonna add time back in during the regular meeting to discuss that. And then hopefully at the 15th meeting is when we would approve it. Good. The meeting on the first is about budgets. So to remember, and we'll go through that in the work session, but remember the levy is a byproduct of the budget. So ideally, the first, we will be talking about budgets and what that all looks like. So that then when you get to the 15th, you can set your budgets and your levy becomes a byproduct of what you need to run.
Okay. Anything else on that? Any question? No.
I gotta look at one sheet of paper here that I thought I had up, must have closed it. Oh, we're gonna ask to set part of the reserves as, AIS aquatic invasive species and riparian aid at the next meeting. We're gonna ask to set and lock in an amount, because we're gonna propose using some of that to offset some wages in that environmental services office.
Do a spend now.
Okay. All right.
The one other item though, is the capital fund. We've been talking about it, and yesterday at the budget committee meeting, the budget committee just felt like we should first deal with the budget itself and then have the goal of doing a work session on capital, and looking at what the capital fund might look like in early 2027. Just because we have so much going on with the budget, it can kind of, doing them both at the same time might not be the best way to proceed. And we're still collecting information on the capital side for infrastructure as well as on the computer side of things and how that might look. So we're still doing some homework. So I just think that's just a point of just the information for the board to know that we're doing homework on what a capital fund might look like and how it might be done in Grant County if the board so chooses to have one. And that will be, we're gonna get through the budget process first and then start that.
So are you saying it won't be done for the 27 budget, but talked about in early 27 for 28? That what I heard?
The recommendation that's gonna come out of the budget committee is we're not gonna put a line in for capital that will increase the levy. Okay. So it's not like we're gonna, well, forever. The plan, the intent from the budget committee, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, well, we're not gonna put a line item in on that cover sheet that says capital.
That's correct.
We're gonna have a capital fund, but it'll be a part of the reserves.
Okay. You gotta help. So you're gonna slowly deplete our reserves to go to capital, but not add anything? Or is the adding gonna be what we over budget?
Essentially, yes. I mean, that's, if we get 3 years down the road and we had a really big capital project that did deplete our reserves, now we're gonna have to fund that line. All right, I mean.
No, I understand. I just had to make sure I heard you.
Yeah.
And this is why the budget committee, when we talked about it, intermixing the two might get confusing, so if we just stay with the budget process and move next to that, but we are doing the homework on it.
But that is unlike technology. We do have a line item for technology, right?
Yep, there's a computer fund.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, on that in the budget committee as well, it was brought up again in there about vehicles that are not sheriff's office vehicles and are not highway vehicles. That small area doesn't really have a committee home. You know, it was mentioned in that maybe that is a strategic planning committee role. I don't know where it is, but I think those wants of vehicles and needs to have a committee to work through them so that we have some sort of formal plan about this is not a sheriff's office and this is not highway. It's everybody else. What are we gonna do about vehicles? So I think we don't obviously have an agenda item for this to make a motion, but let's get a consensus of where we wanna put that. And if we need a motion, we can do it next meeting, but where does that land.
But don't you think we got equipment that's and that lawnmower pickup, does it fit with like some of the other non-highway, non-law enforcement equipment vehicles?
I'm fine with it, I don't care where it goes, let's just find a home for it so that if department head X says, I need a vehicle, or I need a different vehicle, or I need this, they know where to go.
And there's planning that's into that process at the same time. So I'm on board with the strategic planning. If you guys wanna head that direction, or we could probably do it building and grounds too, or whatever you wanna do. Right,
Like I said, I don't care where it goes, let's just give it a home so that it's got somewhere to work on.
I think, building and grounds committee, myself.
Well, Troy and I sit on the budget committee, plus we're building and grounds, so if you want it there.
No, I think that's a good idea though, because there's several vehicles there. And right now, the request just come in their budget right to us, so, you guys, I would say, building committee, grounds committee. They look at that stuff. So do we need a motion at the next meeting on that, or to form another committee, or we can just do it?
Just for, but.
Well, it's not a committee, it's just assigning a task.
Yeah, right. So, but I think that is a good idea though, because, well, there's several of them. You know, that would be Reed's vehicles too, right?
But any vehicle that's not sheriff's office or highway.
Yeah, and then that would include lawn mowers and all of that stuff, or just vehicles are you talking?
Well, I mean, if you, let's say you wanted to put like pickups, the Jeep, whatever, in strategic planning, you wouldn't move the mowers from a building.
Right, yeah, right, okay, so we're set then, as long as we got all that covered, so. Okay, EMS committee, Bill and Dwight.
Oh, we still got a building in there.
Oh, I'm sorry, I checked that, the building committee.
So we had a discussion around the front of the Grant County office building. They wanted to change some things up around the reception area, and we pushed back on that. Law enforcement building has some floor issues that are in the works. Discuss how to get water to the law enforcement yard area. So my understanding is there's sprinklers going to where like that mailbox sits. We're looking at trying to find the water lines for that, because otherwise, I believe all the water out there for like water in the yard is soft water.
Coming out of the LEC, you're correct.
Yeah, so it's not ideal. And then Maya said that at this point, his intent is to move to the VSO office. So that's where he will land at some point, you know. We didn't really have a timeline on that, but.
I think that that's it.
Mr. Chair, if I could chime in on something.
Yep.
Where the water crosses, you know what I mean, I think there's a sprinkler system to the west of the courthouse. So you could whole hog underneath that parking lot. And put a system in, that's tied to the courthouse, which there's 2 separate meters in there, so then you don't have to pay a sewer rate on that.
Well, they were gonna. Maya was gonna find out, see if we could find that line and where the shut off is to get water over there without having to bore new.
Okay.
So that's. Let's see what we find out.
Okay. Is that line on the north side?
It runs over to where that little landscaping thing in there, there's sprinkler heads in there, but we don't know, he said he found part of it, but he didn't find like where the shut off was. So we were looking at trying to locate where.
I suppose I could go up there and witch it. Walk right to it.
Let's let Maya take care of it.
Okay. Anything else on the building committee? EMS committee, Bill and Dwight.
Been met for a while.
Well, we haven't met, we're gonna look at getting a median, here in Grant County with legislators and senators to kind of highlight our local plan that's now been approved.
Good.
So when we get that scheduled, that'll go out.
Sure. Okay, Personnel Committee, Troy and Doyle.
We haven't met since our last board meeting.
Okay. Highway Committee, White and Bill. We met last Thursday, I think. For a Highway Committee. Went over a couple things, but nothing too substantial there. So,
Friday.
Friday. All right. You got anything else from that?
Well, more to follow, let's see it that way.
Okay. All right, Public Safety Committee, Troy and Doyle.
Yeah, so, as many of you know that commissioners and I have been attending all of the city council meetings with the new proposal. So, last week, first we went to Troy and I went to Ferret. They passed, they accepted the bid or the proposal, which was, with the caveat, it's only 1 year. And that the discussions had to continue immediately about how we're gonna go forward with this. I just don't think they're very happy. So then I went to Herman. Their proposal was also 1 year. That we had to continue immediately with the discussions to try to get a more equitable and fair formula. And instead of using 25's data for the calls, you know, for the call volume, they wanted to use the last 3 years. They wanted an average of the last 3 years, which is all in the PowerPoint. Their statistics for calls for service for 23, 24, and 25. But they did accept, again, for 1 year. They want the 3-year average, and we have to immediately continue the discussion of how we're gonna go forward in 27. And 28, actually. Then we went to Hoffman's, and I went to Hoffman's. They had no issues. They actually went up, and you know, our proposal to them was, you know, the 2-year 27 and 28 for the stats on 25. They accepted and they said, well, since everybody else did a 1-year contract, they too, you know, with that, they were fine with whatever. They were fine with the 2-year.
Okay, so they were not fine with the 3-year average.
Right.
They were the only city that had an increase. And if you went to the 3-year average, they got a bigger increase. And so this look back that would favor Herman would be adverse for Hoffman. Did I say that correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then, I did talk to the city of Wendell. They're not going to have a special meeting to accept or deny the proposal. So their next meeting is not until it's the 14th of September. And so I said, okay, is there the 14th or 15th? So I asked if, you know, what can I tell the board? And they said, I'm pretty sure we're gonna accept the proposal. So I think that's what it worked. And then Bill and I last night were with the city of Elbow Lake. They had a work session. It didn't sound like they were going to hold a special meeting either. And they are gonna be sending something to, but they would like to cut their time. They want to cut the time down to 6 hours. And they are looking at doing their ordinance enforcement by themselves.
By themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, well, and I went to Ashby
Yes, thank you,
and,
yes.
they didn't say either way that evening, but, they did have the mayor had a question about, he wanted to see some figures on per unit pricing through the county. And, I said, well, this is our proposal and I said, well, I can ask some questions on that, on the per unit pricing. But, you know, I don't know what that's all about. I've been told that that's not possible or whatever, but anyway.
So when he said per unit, I think he's probably referencing what we would call a loaded wage. And then all depends on what you're gonna put in there.
Or is he talking about a special assessment?
No, it was something that he said.
Oh, that,
Troy had
yeah.
brought it up, but you didn't really wanna elaborate on it, you know.
I think that was the levy or
Yeah.
special assessment.
That's why the special assessments per unit, right?
Yeah.
Per household.
Yeah.
AKA recycling,
Yeah,
kind of model of a recycling fee.
okay, but, yeah. All right, so anyway, I did call the clerk the next day then, and I don't know, I told the clerk, well, it's kind of like our last proposal, you know, that's what and, he said he'd get a hold of him again, and that they probably would go along with that 1 year deal. But we haven't heard officially, so.
So they won't have their next meeting until after our board meeting. Right?
Well, they'll have, it'll be the first Thursday in September, right?
So we meet on the first.
Yeah, so,
So we're really not gonna know anything until
well,
the 15th.
yeah. But that's okay. I mean,
Well, we wanted to set the levy, right?
right,
15th.
The 50.
So what it amounts to then, if we said this is our final offer, but Bill Blake had the option of reducing, that's gonna add another $20,000 to the 44,000 to the levy. So the question is, we can grant that, or could we see some other city go, well, we don't really need two,
Absolutely.
we'll take one,
Absolutely, like that's,
and this is the crater.
mhm,
this is a mess, and I think we've still got a lot of work to do, and I don't have the right answer,
mhm.
but I know we just can't continue to do this.
No,
What's this?
All this commotion, like we have to figure this out. And I don't know, I've been hearing from the cities, I think they wanna have another public hearing. Just something for them to go and talk to all the commissioners, and so whether we do it at a public hearing, or if we do it at a work session. I don't know.
the problem that I see is that the cities that we're negotiating with, they probably already have this in their budget. And so they're sitting okay for their preliminary, because they're gonna, you know, but we're not. We need to know what our revenue is. Set our levy,
I know,
see, you know what I'm saying?
Well, they're just, it's gonna reduce their levy by what kind of expense they have. So whether it's on the revenue side or the expense side, it affects the levy on the city side. So. The way you were sheriff forever. When we went into these, what was the implied intent? Why would the city have done this?
Well, the city was doing it because of the issue with manpower and with the cost going up of operating a police department and the liabilities and the equipment and everything, and they couldn't do it anymore. They could see the handwriting on the wall, and one of the biggest thing is to get 5 post licensed peace officers to come into a small town It's, and, they wanna, everybody wants to make as much money as you can. And, so that's why it went that way, you know?
So my question is, if we had all those city representatives in front of us and we asked that question, what was the reason you went into this? That would be their answer, wouldn't it? So what's changed today? I mean, in 10 years, we probably saved Delta Lake $1 million. I don't know how short their memory is, but what's changed? That's what I don't get. Nothing's
well,
changed.
I pose the question, where did the unhappy start?
Yeah, good. What did they say?
It's been a long time.
They said,
What?
It's been a long time. It was back when Troy was still sheriff. They started to become unhappy. I just think with the rising cost and other cities are not having to pay. That's all one of the levy. There's other different, so I think they're just, everybody's hearing this, you know, people are being disbanded all the time.
I talked to one of the commissioners from Stevens County, same thing in Stevens County, the first 1 year, the city of Morris.
Yeah.
One of the county, they charged them the same amount. Plus they could go up a certain percent based on, I don't know, increase of cost or salary. The first year, now they wanna pull the rug out, and wanna do it for less.
But didn't they hand over the whole budget to
They
the,
did.
to the county?
But now it's another year.
Now they have an
And
option
now
of
it's-
doing it for
No.
less.
It's everywhere.
Like, I talked to Traverse County, Wheaton PD, you know, they're paying for 3. And they're still happy with it, they're still going with it. It's just,
So I got a question, the base contract was the 8 hours, $10,000 per hour. So how does that relate to population or calls? I mean, at some point, does Elk Lake need 8 hours a day?
well, I mean, so when people start cutting their hours, well. It's not gonna, their call log is gonna exceed. So I don't know if we want to allow that. You know, cause that, I mean, 6 hours depending on what the crime is, but. I mean, we still have deputies working on a incident that happened 3 months ago, you know.
8 hours was fine, and the proposal was for half price.
So my point would be is, I think this should be our final offer. I think we should put our stake in the ground and say, this is it, and if you don't wanna sign it, then we'll send them an official letter that they're gonna go to minimum service. We saved it, Elk Lake, $20,000 from it last year. And we guaranteed it for 2 years. Now they wanna cut another 20. Now, I'm sorry to pick out Elk Lake, but it kinda hacks me off. Same with Herman, now they wanna move the goalposts and go to 3-year averages, so they save some more money. And I go to Hoffman, and they get charged more, and they understood because of, okay, they like, at some point. If we're gonna have them, let's say this is it. And when they go to their taxpayer and said, we got minimum service, they'll find out what minimum is, and they'll be happy to pay $150,000 in a flash.
That's the way I see
And
it.
we should make the motion next meeting. And I hope they're listening, look at the camera.
And I think too, Commissioner Johnson, that at our next meeting, we should have a motion again. If a town wants to sign, there's contract, let them sign it. Then we know that we have that revenue, we have this revenue, and if some town doesn't wanna do it, then first of the year, they're on their own.
And we'll add that amount to the levy.
Yeah.
And they're on their own. Cut and ride.
But I agree with that, I lay in bed at night and I go, all those years that I worked for Grant County and worried about people's lives and public safety in those towns and out in the county. You know, we were giving it our best effort and, you know, so it hurts. It hurts a little bit.
What I don't understand. And it doesn't matter that I come up with it, the simple fact, the math, saved Devil Lake $20,000, they wanted to do it for half. 20 wasn't enough, now they wanna take another 20, at some point. It's no. And I think the point is now,
Cut the cord.
cut 100%.
I do think that, like in Ashby, I look at that and I know that they've saved at least $500,000 in the last 8, 9 years, because their budget was about 110. And then it went down to whatever, 40,000, so that figure adds up in a hurry. So yeah, that's how I feel. Does anybody else have anything on that?
Well, I wanna say is we had law enforcement contracts for a 3-legged stool. The sheriff's department provided the hours that were requested and paid for by the cities. The cities provided the money, and this board then said, okay, for that money, we will provide staffing that fulfills those hours. We're not the ones that said you're gonna have to get by with 4 hours for the same amount. I mean, at the end of the day, this is like everything else. We want the same thing, but we don't want to pay for it. I mean, we're gonna meet again with, next time we meet, we'll have 30 days left to set a preliminary budget. I don't know what more there's gonna be for time to negotiate or do anything.
The other thing, Mr. Chair, I think it should come up whenever it comes up, is this board should make a decision whether we're gonna change the level of service. Whether we're gonna have deputies on call in bed, or whether we're gonna be out on the road like we are today. And once we determine that, that greatly affects what you can do to the budget, because there's only so much cutting, and if it's not in staff. But I think we need to declare that and put our name on it. And then we're telling it, and subsequently, it'll go on the levy. But they're gonna get minimum service. And I'll guarantee you, these cities will not want minimum service. They'll be signing in a flash. Okay, Bill.
I can tell you this, if we get to the point where we don't have contracts and people wanna add them later, it's gonna be a full loaded rate is my vote, and I'm talking a full loaded rate. $770,000 for a building divided by 11.
I agree.
And then 1 hour, I mean,
If you can quantify this thing, we've saved them so much money. That simple question, what's changed from what we did originally to today? They don't have the answer, and I like to see them, I'd ask them, what changed? Makes no sense. And I think it's our time to stand up and say no.
I agree with you. So. Okay, well, we'll make sure we get that one on the agenda.
So what are we gonna do then?
well, we can't really do anything today because it's not an agenda item, and we gave everybody till the 28th. So. We can't really, my view is we can't really do anything today, but let's wait, see where we're at on the first.
Can we say that we're going to meet with everybody again?
Like what we do that.
Invite them to the meeting. Then we can tell them there, we'll build our position that this is it, this is your final offer, hand them a contract. Sign it or not, if they don't sign it, hand them the minimum use letter.
Yeah, and like I said, I think, we need to, at least I'm gonna make a motion at the next meeting to let, if the city wants to sign, this is what it is. And then we'll see how that vote goes in, so, okay? But then, should we have, what we've said, should we have that in a contract ready to go? If somebody wants to sign it with, you know, they can sign it or they don't. But should we have that contract ready to go?
Yeah.
So we can ask Justin about that.
Well, I mean, because in reality, by the first.
Yeah.
You will know who approved it by the 28th.
Right, because they're supposed to
Because
contact.
our offer, let us know by the 28th, so you can view that as an end.
Yeah.
That, I mean, it was good till the 28th.
And I think they should, if they listen, otherwise we should officially let them know that this was our final offer.
Well, we would need we would need to have that as an agenda item to change that, because.
Yep.
That is my consensus, cause if Herman thinks it's gonna be one way, Mel Blake thinks it's gonna be 6 hours and they don't officially know.
And the other ones, it's, we propose a 2-year contract, everybody wants a 1-year.
Well, that,
I mean, so,
But we've heard from them, so let's call it a counter offer on the first, we've heard from them, right?
We guaranteed the rate for 2 years, we didn't necessarily, that was like,
The rate was the same, and
yeah,
to me, the 1 year is, they're saying, oh, we'll do this, but for 1 year, so it's a counter offer that you were at the meetings, you heard from them by the 28th. So we've got responses there.
yes,
so have Justin make up the contract for 1 year,
yeah,
no average. Right,
just like the spreadsheet says.
1 year,
So I got a question, how many other towns are grumbling about the ordinances besides Elton?
better,
Ashby, I haven't heard them argue about it.
Well, I can tell you what Hoffman does.
Yeah,
They
that got brought up last night.
they alert their council person that's in charge and he looks at it and Janae sends them a letter and waits whatever 10 or 2 weeks and they send them the second letter and if they don't do it, it goes to, she gets a copy of them. We don't need Sheriff Lightfon writing letters and putting stamps on envelopes for a city. That is ludicrous. If you can't send a letter
and
out,
that's the way it's always been, Ken, that's the agreement that Justin proposed, and that's the way it's always been,
For Elbow Lake.
for everybody,
Every,
for everybody. Then I became chief deputy, I didn't say,
What Hoffman is doing is what is supposed to be everybody.
Oh, that's what you're saying, okay.
yep, and so
Yeah.
the last couple of years, they didn't like that.
No,
They said that they pay us to go and identify the properties.
so that's them making that decision.
So then we changed it, John started doing Elbow Lake. And now since we've started talking about this whole contract thing, everything kind of just stopped February, like we don't know who's doing it and. So it's just that Hoffman is still continuing to do it their own, which helps us a lot. It does.
What does Ashby do?
We've been doing it. We've been doing it.
You get a lot of,
No,
no,
that's the thing, there's. They can't.
so. Okay, well, that was good
it'll be
discussion.
me.
Okay, so can we have a work session? Should we have a work session? Can we talk about that? Can we do it?
Well, the work session on the first is dedicated to the budget, that's already set up.
But 8:30 to 9, but there could be one after, in the afternoon, there could be one,
Well, we're doing our tour.
oh.
For the first.
Put it on the agenda, invite them. They
I
want to
mean,
see.
done right during the regular meeting?
Yeah,
Is that a work session or is that a
Well, you can,
public hearing?
you make it,
The difference, the work session, no decisions can be made.
well, but if it's after the meeting's been called to order, it can just be a work or agenda item.
Yeah, that, I was just saying,
My concern is that if we have budget as a work session and we have budget as an agenda item. And we're starting that tour at 12:30,
You ain't gonna get it done.
so that's gonna be pretty tough, I mean, to me, if you wanna have the cities come in. The afternoon of September the 4th at 1 o'clock would probably be your best. After the Western Prairie meeting, which it would be in London, but we could be back here by 1. That, I mean, that's, if you wanna dedicate time to listen,
so,
but it's after the first,
so,
Yeah.
and I may be the minority. It's not gonna take long to tell them this is our offer. If you don't like it, this is what's happening. It's 8 minutes. We're there.
Well, I mean, if that's your stance, then why would you bring a meeting?
Well, cause
They
they
can
asked.
they can see this and.
Yeah, but they
Well,
can
we're,
say. They can hear us. We invite.
the sheriff was asking maybe if that could be a possibility. Just to have some more dialogue.
Just to say, yeah, we'll meet with you, and then that's just your message. That, I mean, that's, I mean, if you did wanna add it on the first and say that we only need 10 minutes, okay, but I don't know why you wanna call them in and say.
I think if,
Why don't we just put it on the agenda? They know if they wanna come, they can. Don't, I mean, they,
because that's where we're gonna say, you know, make them have a motion that this is our last one.
Yeah.
Is on that agenda.
if they wanna be present to address us.
And I think that, I can let the Ashby City Clerk know again. Cause that's basically what I, or said.
Officers already agreed, you know, they don't need to come to the meeting unless they want to.
This is a 1-year contract, you guys. So just thinking big picture of the future. They are unwilling to pay 350, just 350,000. They're unwilling to do this. Our costs are only gonna continue to rise, just like everything else. What are we gonna do? You cannot keep doing this to my employees. What are we gonna do? We're gonna have to get all of us in the same room and figure this out.
Well, let me add. I don't think it's practical. We've heard from the cities that we expect the cities cost the contract to keep up with the cost of the increase of cost of law enforcement. That gap's gonna widen. It's going on the levy. But to add 350 at once, we're adding 44. Next year it might be 60. I think we gotta have contracts. It contributes to offset the levy. But the difference is gonna have to go there, just like all the other departments. I think that's the answer.
So if we can come up with a realistic number of that, what we always expect the cities to pay.
Well, we offered them 2 years and they're not wanting to accept it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went backwards from 25 to what it was in 24, and we offered additional years then, and that just wasn't good enough.
Santa Claus is done coming, I don't know here. But I don't think it's
So,
logical that
and you
it's
say
gonna keep up.
I don't know that I'm sold on that $40,000 going on the levy even, because, no, this needs to be resolved long term. I would recommend we pay that 44,000 or whatever it is out of reserve this year, but I'm not admitting that that's going on the levy.
Yeah, well, that should be part of that budget discussion.
Well, I mean,
don't have
that's-
a problem. It's just the way the math works out.
Right, but I mean, to say that we're gonna put that on the levy, I don't know that I'm there.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's,
No, and I don't have a problem with that. I'm just saying that 300,000, it was a reduction, it was a formula, and that was but you're right, that it's gonna come somewhere, yeah. Where that is, I guess that would be a part of that discussion in that work session.
Okay.
But back to Jen's concern. If we're gonna think that the cities are they don't wanna pay what they're not gonna try to keep up with that department. That's gaps those. Well,
Okay. Well,
So will there be a meeting on September 4th then, or no?
In the afternoon.
I think you guys were saying you wanted to just put it on the agenda for the
Yeah.
first.
have another meeting, yeah, just put it on.
we don't need another meeting, no.
What are you saying, Don?
But I do think, and I'll do it, I'm gonna call the clerk and just say, hey, and inform, you know, the city council that this is what we're gonna propose, on the first meeting.
Well, I mean, it could be interpreted, we had said we wanted to respond by the 28th, but that's when our offer ends.
That's right, cause I read that too, so by the 28th, you have to make the decision. And let us know, so.
But what I'm saying on the first, At some point, we gotta declare that we're declining two of those offers because they wanna change it.
Mhm.
We're saying this is this is our final offer. Herman and who? Herman and Elbow.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, we got that, Tina?
Yes. So, a board agenda item on September 1st meeting is what I've got.
Okay,
well, I think Dwight wanted one particular thing and I think Ken wanted, so if you have something that you want particularly, you'll have to work with Tina to get a board agenda item for those things.
are you talking where I wanna make that motion?
Right, I mean, let's get those things. If there's something specific you want addressed with a motion, talk with Tina to get that.
Okay, so what I want, Tina, is,
Well, you don't have to do it right now.
It'll be a part of the board packet.
Yeah.
It'll be a board agenda request form.
okay,
Submitted by the
Submitted
chairman
by
of the
you,
board.
or submitted by Ken, or submitted by Bill.
right,
Yeah,
And it'll be on the agenda in the board packet that goes out, which if, you know, it's public information. If anybody wants to request it, the cities can request it. Anybody can, or we can send it to the cities, whatever.
okay.
I guess that's up to you guys. I work at the will of you guys. You have to tell me what you would like done.
So I just got one more question. I heard you say that they wanted to reduce the 6 hours and do their own ordinance enforcement. And then I heard that in the past, ordinance enforcement was always part of the cities,
Oh,
right? So do we hear what they're asking? They're asking for $20,000. That's something that they were supposed to do anyway. Let's not forget it.
One other thing with the city ordinance, when all of the requirements are met in the ordinance, when push comes to shove, it's law enforcement has the right to take it, or the county attorney has to charge. But most of the time, it's a citation, right, Sheriff? It's a citation, so even if Elbow Lake wants to do all of their enforcement action, when it push comes to shove, they gotta have help. Yeah, so, and with that comes a fee from the city attorney per ordinance violation. And I've been in these deals where when the city has to start paying attorney's fees to prosecute these people because there's a system there, you know, of guilty, not guilty, and, you know, hearings and all this. He's representing them, and those bills are not very well accepted from the cities.
Maybe the low hanging branches will get taken care of internally.
Yeah, so,
Right, Bill?
yeah.
okay,
Okay, Mr. Chair, I got one more question here, okay? Do we have a copy of the signed contracts? Signed contract saying they would do the ordinances? Way back when they were supposed to do the ordinances and they just passed it on you.
It's on the contracts, yeah. I have every contract since '89.
And there is a signed
there's
contract.
language in there.
There's language in there, but there's a signed contract. It isn't, they're just paying the bill. They didn't want to sign the contract, they just want to pay the bill.
Signed contract.
Okay,
Well, I'm sure
I'm asking.
we have them on file, those contracts.
Okay.
All right. So, are we good now?
Yeah, that was.
It's almost dinner time. Okay, solid waste.
We meet next week. Yeah.
Okay. Strategic Planning Committee.
We meet the 25th, is it?
I think we meet after the solid waste committee.
Yes.
25th.
Yeah. And so,
Okay, Horizon. Well, we had a good presentation today. Western Prairie.
We'll have a preliminary dollar figure, but it won't be till the 4th. There is a number in what'll be on the 1st for it, but I think it'll go down, I think.
I mean, it'll be there. Ann and I are on the finance committee and we've got a plan with them.
Okay, Anything else? Yeah, you got anything?
If I can ask a question, I will.
Go ahead.
This relates to the law enforcement contracts in the cities. Some of you I've talked to individually, you know my feelings. I am here as a citizen of the county, not as the role of the county auditor. I'm gonna preface that. If the city do not sign contracts and the county loses revenue to offset the cost of the sheriff's department, what is the intent of the county board moving forward with the sheriff's office? How will it be staffed? Do you have an answer to that?
Well, could I answer it, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair?
I'm asking you guys the question.
Yep, no, and when I had said earlier, I don't know if you heard it, and I expressed this to our chair, that at some point, we have to, it should be identified in public and by vote, whether we're gonna continue staffing at the existing level, yes or no, or less. And once that decision's made, let's say it stays on the 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 2 deputies on. That decision then dictates some form, the level of the budget. Now, are there other potential cuts? I don't know, I'm not in the room then. But I think that decision, I don't know how they feel. I know how I feel. Once that's made, Chad, then I think that is a decision that the citizens should know. And
That's why I'm asking.
yes, and
I live in this county,
so we could, what's that?
cause I live in this county,
Yeah,
so I'm like,
you could pull us right now and wouldn't be a motion, but it would be a consensus, I guess that.
as you know, I work on budget stuff. I know what I do. It's a big dollar amount that cities don't wanna pay. We seem to levy $165,000 for the ambulance service or for EMS and nobody squawked.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not proposing putting it all on the levy, I'm not doing any of all of that. Are there other cuts we can make to ensure that we have staff needed for the sheriff's office? My feeling is yes. Now I'm talking as the county auditor. Then I've said to 3 of you individual commissioners, you know what my plan is if the cities don't wanna do this. I've said it, and I'll say it in public. If the cities don't wanna pay city contracts, my job is to figure out how to run the county budget, how to make that county budget not increase substantially. Which means, are there ways we can either cut or increase revenues outside of just putting it under taxes? Cause you guys all know I'm not a favor of just throwing stuff on taxes. If that happens, I will be on the agenda. Cause I have some ideas on how we can, A, cut some costs to the county, specifically to my department, specifically to elections, so you guys can come up with your own conclusions. 3 of you know what that is. Excuse me, 3 of you know what that is. And there's other ways we can generate some revenue based on the work we do with special assessments. We as the county and county departments have performed a lot of things for cities, townships, and those types of, you know, our other jurisdictions that we are partners with in this county that we do not bill for. There's a handful of those. We don't turn around and take one governmental agency and bill another governmental agency. We know what it's like from the state to bill us. We don't like it. So that's been my philosophy all these years. We're not gonna just pass the buck and roll it down the hill. Might be time. No, I'm done. But I will say this. I really do not want to see you guys reduce law enforcement staffing. It's part of the reason I live up here.
So let me ask, mention. The part that disheartens me, and you've heard me, is that And I asked earlier, what changed? And these cities had to have a police department.
And that's the past, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, but it's not because,
That's not, we were here today.
yeah, but Chad, we.
How much money we saved them, when we can say we saved them? How much money that they were paying versus what they're paying versus where they're at, what they're upset about? That's up to them.
But we're.
I'm worried about doing the county budget.
Yeah, but we're continuing to, there's a value in what we're doing and we're saying,
Yeah.
here, it's worth this dollar and they're saying no.
Yeah.
But at some point that, we gotta agree on that, don't
I'm just concerned about doing a county budget and taxes.
we? Okay.
And having a decent law enforcement agency, decent EMS, the reasons we all live out here. And if that means we have to figure out a different mechanism to make sure that that happens, I have some suggestions. It might not be very popular, but I have some suggestions.
Okay,
Well, I would encourage Chad that you get to the budget committee and lay them out so then that can come to.
They've heard it. They got my spiel yesterday.
Okay,
Yep,
good.
and thank you for
They
that.
know where I stand.
All right.
Appreciate you.
anything else today? Okay, I'll adjourn this meeting at 11:41.
That would be.
So I'll have Dustin write up something.